After trying every healthy food way out there, organic, vegan, gluten-free, microbiotic, raw, mono diet, juicing, I found that I feel my absolute best when I fast. Fasting takes me into the world of continuous alignment and complete clarity, a world of original instruction, as I call it. There are those who can enter it and stay there, those who go back and forth, and those who never enter. You can't force that door open. It is a magical mechanism that will gently and unexpectedly unlock for you when you're ready. Forcing fasting makes it hard and takes all the magic away from it. I first naturally entered it, unexpectedly stumbled into it after an unintended juice cleanse that lasted for several months. I later learned that in indigenous cultures, children would go on a fast, a spirit quest, when they were ready. But you have to keep in mind that indigenous people had something very special about them. Their way of life. They were not overeating. They were not eating processed foods and refined sugars. They ate only local and native, 100% unsprayed organic foods. They were out in fresh air all the time, their bare skin exposed to the elements. They were already utilizing all of their organs, including the largest one, their skin, for absorption of light, nutrients, and water that are always present in the air around us. And therefore, transitioning between eating and fasting wasn't as drastic as we would experience it right now. Their bodies knew how to switch over from one system, the stomach, to other systems, skin and lungs, for sustenance, for absorption of nutrients. Our bodies today have forgotten how to drink through the skin, how to absorb light and nutrients that don't enter via the mouth. We need to start gently, through first activating our body's remembrance. That will make all the difference between fasting and still receiving nutrition and simply starving our bodies. Between a healthy switch from one digestive system to another and anorexia, where your body can't switch and starts devouring its own tissues. It is very important to understand that. True fasting does not mean starving. It means not using your digestive tract, but still receiving nutrients. I would say that fasting is a sort of natural culmination of the lifetime of choices we take when it comes to our sustenance, our diets. Fasting will naturally enter your life after your system has already cleared itself, after a significant amount of healing has already occurred, after you've been eating healthy for a long time. Don't go from a highly processed foods diet to starving your body. That is not it. That is not right. Fasting, not eating or drinking, should be almost easy, peaceful and pleasant. It should feel like a natural step on an unfolding path. You will know that it is right for you, that you are on the right track. If it feels forced and unpleasant, backtrack. Stop. Go back to just eating healthy. Be flexible, kind, and loving to your body throughout. Remember, our current day energy-demanding lifestyles have to be taken into consideration. I take everything into account and freely enter and exit the realm of fasting. The knowledge that speaks through me instructs that for those of us who go back and forth, in between, we should eat foods that flow harmoniously with the process rather than interrupting it. And that is why I'm making this video for you today. What you eat in between the fasting is just as important as the fasting itself. food is sacred. Food is medicine. What we eat before fasting determines where on the other side we turn up. Remember the enchanted beans in the Jack and the Beanstalk? That was it. A native food that would allow one to travel into the sky world. You want foods with the deepest roots, the strongest, most resilient foods that will hold you, that will be your lifeline while you dive. Foods that will help you find your way back. Native foods have the deepest roots. They are here to help you travel into other realms, into the underworld, towards the center, or further out into the star world, without you ever losing sight of home. This place that we always come back to. Among them, our plant and animal relatives who always support us in this magical place in between. Do you ever get this feeling that although you're on this land, that somehow you're not of it, yearning for a deeper, more meaningful connection to everything and everyone? I think that happens because most of the food that we eat is neither local nor native. It lacks deep roots and rich history. So today, we are going to do just that. We're going to ground, to root, and reconnect to the land that we live on and its indigenous people with the help of native ingredients. So I am very excited for us to make this meal together. But first, let's give our thanks to the native ingredients that have blessed us by sharing themselves and their wisdom. These ingredients represent the elders. They have been here much longer than we were. We are honored to be in your presence. I will be borrowing today's recipe from an incredible book titled Chimi, Native California Foodways for the Contemporary Kitchen, written by Sara Calvosa Olson. Sara is Karuk on her mom's side and an American of Italian and German descent on her father's side. Sara spent her childhood in Huupa lands and now lives in Huuñ Coast, Miwok lands. And if you're curious to find out where Huupa, Karuk, and Miwok lands are, and if you're curious to know whose land you currently occupy, check out this very cool map on native-land.ca. I chose a very special recipe for our video today. A recipe for the Three Sisters salad. It is a long-standing staple in First Nations sustenance. The relationship between these three sisters is both meaningful and nutritious. And today, we will be doing something far more special than simply watch me cook a bunch of ingredients into a pretty plated meal that you can neither smell nor taste. Instead, we will take a look at each native ingredient from Sara Olson's recipe. We will learn its history, find out which part of the Americas it comes from, and whom we can thank for preserving it. For the exact preparation and a complete recipe, please go ahead and buy the book. It is going to blow your mind fully open by introducing you to plants that you didn't even know were edible and delicious, that grow all around you. So, who are the three sisters Dioheko? They are, drumroll, maize, which is corn, beans, and squash. Their Haudenosaunee name Dioheko means our sustainers. The Haudenosaunee people preserved and made great use of the Three Sisters regenerative agricultural planting technique. And a cool fact, these same Haudenosaunee people played a key role in unification of the 13 original colonies and the establishment of our democratic government principles which were derived from Haudenosaunee's Great Law of Peace. How incredible! I wonder if our three sisters just might have had something to do with that. I am a true believer that if we eat foods that are united in the soil, that have cooperative properties, then we too will acquire their wisdom and their qualities and then emit them into the world around us. The three sisters are planted together by a practice called companion planting. They nurture each other and their environment all the way from the earth's belly to crop to our belly. The cornstalk is raised by a planting technique called hilling. It provides strong support for the climbing bean vines that are planted along its side. Meanwhile, beans are excellent at sequestering nitrogen and sharing it with the corn. The third sister, squash, pumpkin or gourd, has large leaves that grow close to the ground, shading the soil between our sisters, thus preventing it from overdrying and from the weeds. And the three sisters nurturing nature does not end even after they're picked. They continue to nourish people by providing a balanced blend of proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals when served together in a dish. So here are the ingredients that we will need for Sara Olson's Three Sisters Fall Salad. For our first sister, corn, we have a very special type of corn that I've never tried before, and this one is Ramona Farms Huuñ whole kernel Cub-Roasted Pima corn. And for our second sister, we have Ramona Farms brown Tepary beans, or S-OAM BAVީ. For our third sister, squash, we have this beautiful Cherokee candy roaster squash. Isn't she gorgeous? And we have other ingredients. We have maple sugar or maple syrup. I'll explain why two later. We have chili powder, Dijon mustard, garlic clove, sunflower oil, salad oil, and then elderberry balsamic vinegar from Seki Hills. And what else do we have? We have water and also amaranth, which we will pop. Now, let's get to know all these native ingredients. And if you notice, we actually have two ingredients from Ramona Farms on our table. So let's start with that and talk a little about this wonderful farm that provides these traditional native ingredients to our recipe. Ramona Farms is an American Indian operated and owned farm in Gila River Reservation in Sacaton, Arizona. Every product that comes from Ramona Farms is free from pesticides and herbicides and is grown from their heirloom varieties, which means they do not use genetically modified seed stock. And if you're just as curious as I am to find out what genetically modified seed stock is, then let's read this next article together. And this article comes from Investopedia.com. It is titled Seed Stock, What It Is, How It Works, and Examples. It is written by Corey Mitchell, updated on June 22nd, 2024. What is a seed stock? Seed stock refers to stocks issued by publicly traded companies that operate within the agriculture industry. These companies specialize in plant research and development, R&D. Most R&D has the aim of producing higher yields from crops. Companies may develop and market specialized seeds which have been engineered to withstand certain conditions such as drought or the presence of pests. These companies also often hold patents for their seeds and genes. Understanding seed stock. Seed stock is often issued by companies that create seeds for industrial level agricultural production, like Ramona Farms, only they don't use those seed stocks. These crops include soy, corn, rice, and cotton. Each of these crops has a large global market for the engineered seeds. Seed companies may also engineer crops for specific purposes. For example, a company may develop seeds for a breed of corn intended only as livestock feed and another exclusively designed for the production of ethanol. These seeds would be necessarily different from corn seeds intended for human consumption. In recent years, growing concerns about genetically modified foods, GMF, have brought attention to engineered food crop seeds. GMF are seeds produced from organisms that have had their genes engineered to introduce traits not created through natural selection. Examples of seed stock companies include US-based Bayer Crop Science, formerly Monsanto, Switzerland-based Syngenta, and China-based Origin Agritech. All right, enough of that. I think we can have a completely separate episode dedicated exclusively to the genetically modified seeds later. For now, let's get back to our ingredients. And I have to confess that when I first read the name whole kernel Cub-Roasted Pima corn, I thought that Pima meant the variety of corn. But when I looked into it, it turned out that Pima was a name given by the settlers to the people that live in the area where this corn grows, that used to live, or live now too, in that area where the corn grows. So the story goes like this. During their first contact with the Spanish settlers, the local tribe members kept repeating the phrase Pima, Pi animak, or Pima haitu, which translates to I don't know. So the settlers bestowed the name Pima onto the local people. But originally, Pima people called themselves Akimel Oodam, which means the river people. An alltribes.com article titled Pima writes, the Akimel Oodam river people had lived on the banks of Gila River since long before European contact. Their way of life, Himdagi, sometimes rendered into English as Himdag, was and is centered around the river, which is considered holy. The term Himdag should be clarified, as it does not have a direct translation into English language and is not limited to reverence of the river. It encompasses a great deal because Oodam Himdag intertwines religion, morals, values, philosophy, and general worldview, which are all interconnected. Their worldview/religious beliefs are centered around the natural world, and this is pervasive throughout their culture. All right, now that we've learned a little more about Pima people, let's turn our attention back to the corn, a gift of sustenance given to the indigenous people by the Great Spirit. Every Native American tribe has its own story about the origins of corn. Some stories are alike and some are very different. Today we will read a beautiful Ojibwe tale titled Mondamin, which means the gift of corn or the origin of corn. Pima people have their own story, but both Pima and Ojibwe, no matter the distance between them, describe corn first appearing as part human, part plant. All right, this next tale can be found on learningtogive.org. Are you ready? This is going to be a good one. Mondamin, or the origin of Indian corn. In times past, a poor Indian was living with his wife and children in a beautiful part of the country. He was not only poor, but inexpert in producing food for his family, and his children were all too young to give him assistance. Although poor, he was a man of kind and contented disposition. He was always thankful to the Great Spirit for everything he received. The same disposition was inherited by his eldest son, who had now arrived at the proper age to undertake the ceremony of fast, to see what kind of a spirit would be his guide and guardian throughout life. Once, for this was his name, had been an obedient boy from his infancy, and was of a pensive, thoughtful, and mild disposition, so that he was beloved by the whole family. As soon as the first indications of spring appeared, they built him the customary little lodge, at a retired spot some distance from their own, where he would not be disturbed during this solemn rite. In the meantime, he prepared himself, and immediately went into it and commenced his fast. The first few days he amused himself in the mornings by walking in the woods and over the mountains, examining the early plants and flowers, and in this way prepared himself to enjoy his sleep, and at the same time stored his mind with pleasant ideas with his dreams. While he rambled through the woods, he felt a strong desire to know how the plants, herbs, and berries grew without any aid from a man, and why it was that some species were good to eat and others possessed medicinal and poisonous juices. He recalled these thoughts to mind after he became too languid to walk about and had confined himself strictly to the lodge. He wished he could dream of something that would prove a benefit to his father and family and to all others. True, he thought, the Great Spirit made all things, and it is to him that we owe our lives. But could he not make it easier for us to get our food than by hunting animals and taking fish? I must try to find out this in my visions. On the third day, he became weak and faint and kept his bed. He fancied while thus lying that he saw a handsome young man coming down from the sky and advancing towards him. He was richly and gaily dressed, having on a great many garments of green and yellow colors, but different in their deeper or lighter shades. He had a plume of waving feathers on his head, and all his motions were graceful. "I am sent to you, my friend," said the celestial visitor, "by the Great Spirit, who made all things in the sky and on earth. He has seen and knows your motives in fasting. He sees that it is from a kind and benevolent wish to do good to your people and to produce a benefit for them, and that you do not seek for strength in war or praise of warriors. I am sent to instruct you and show you how you can do your kindred good." He then told the young man to arise and prepare to wrestle with him, as it was only by this means that he could hope to succeed his wishes. Once knew he was weak from fasting, but he felt his courage rising in his heart and immediately got up, determined to die rather than fail. He commenced the trial, and after a protracted effort was almost exhausted, when the beautiful stranger said, "My friend, it is enough for once. I will come again to try you." And smiling on him, he ascended in the air in the same direction from which he came. The next day the celestial visitor reappeared at the same hour and renewed the trial. Once felt that his strength was even less than the day before, but the courage of his mind seemed to increase in proportion as his body became weaker. Seeing this, the stranger again spoke to him in the same words he used before, adding, "Tomorrow will be your last trial. Be strong, my friend, for this is the only way you can overcome me and obtain the boon you seek." On the third day he again appeared at the same time and renewed the struggle. The poor youth was very faint in body, but grew stronger in mind at every contest, and was determined to prevail, perish in the attempt. He exerted his utmost powers, and after the contest had been continued the usual time, the stranger ceased his efforts and declared himself conquered. For the first time he entered the lodge, and sitting down beside the youth, he began to deliver his instructions to him. telling him in what manner he should proceed to take advantage of this victory. "You have won your desires of the Great Spirit," said the stranger. "You have wrestled manfully. Tomorrow will be the 7th day of your fasting. Your father will give you food to strengthen you, and as it is the last day of your trial, you will prevail. I know this, and now tell you what you must do to benefit your family and your tribe. Tomorrow," he repeated, "I shall meet you and wrestle with you for the last time, and as soon as you have prevailed against me, you will strip off my garments and throw me down, clean the earth of roots and weeds, make it soft, and bury me in the spot. When you have done this, leave my body in the earth and do not disturb it, but come occasionally to visit the place, to see whether I have come to life. And be careful never to let grass or weeds grow on my grave. Once a month, cover me with fresh earth. If you follow my instructions, you will accomplish your object of doing good to your fellow creatures by teaching them the knowledge I now teach you." He then shook him by the hand and disappeared. In the morning, the youth's father came with some slight refreshment, saying, "My son, you have fasted long enough. If the Great Spirit will favor you, he will do it now. It is 7 days since you have tasted food, and you must not sacrifice your life. The Master of Life does not require it." "My father," replied the youth, "wait till the sun goes down. I have a particular reason for extending my fast to that hour." "Very well," said the old man. "I shall wait till the last hour arrives and you feel inclined to eat." At the usual hour of the day, the sky visitor returned, and the trial of strength was renewed. Although the youth has not availed himself of his father's offer for food, he felt that new strength had been given to him, and that exertion had renewed his strength and fortified his courage. He grasped his angelic antagonist with supernatural strength, threw him down, took from him his beautiful garments and plume, and finding him dead, immediately buried him on the spot, taking all the precautions he had been told of, and being very confident at the same time that his friend would again come to life. He then returned to his father's lodge and partook sparingly of the meal that had been prepared for him. But he never for a moment forgot that grave of his friend. He carefully visited it throughout spring, and weeded out grass and kept the ground in a soft and pliant state. Very soon he saw the tops of the green plumes coming through the ground, and the more careful he was to obey his instruction in keeping the ground in order, the faster they grew. He was, however, careful to conceal the exploit from his father. Days and weeks had passed in this way. The summer was now drawing towards a close, when one day, after a long absence in hunting, once invited his father to follow him to the quiet and lonesome spot of his former fast. The lodge had been removed, and the weeds kept from growing on the circle where it stood, but in its place stood a tall and graceful plant, with bright-colored silken hair, surmounted with nodding plumes and stately leaves, and golden clusters on each side. "It is my friend," shouted the lad. "It is the friend of all mankind. It is Mondamin, the name of corn. We need no longer rely on hunting alone, for as long as this gift is cherished and taken care of, the ground itself will give us a living." He then pulled an ear. "See, my father," he said, "this is what I fasted for. The Great Spirit had listened to my voice and sent us something new. And henceforth our people will not alone depend upon the chase or upon the waters." He then communicated to his father the instructions given him by the stranger. He told him that the broad husks must be torn away, as he had pulled off the garments in the wrestling, and having done this, directed him how the ear must be held before the fire till the outer skin becomes brown, while all the milk is retained in the grain. The whole family then united in the feast on the newly grown ears, expressing gratitude to the merciful spirit who gave it. So corn came into the world and has ever since been preserved. Mondamin, or The Origin of Indian Corn, an Ojibwe tale, originally published in 1956 by Michigan State University Press. So now that we have learned about Pima people and the origin story of the Indian corn, let's take a look at the back label and see what the growers of our corn, Ramona and Teddy Button, have to say about their product. Huuñ, Cub-Roasted Pima corn kernels. Oh, the subtly sweet flavor of roasted corn. Huuñ can be used as a side dish or as an ingredient in soups or stews. Long ago, Huuñ was a staple food of our people, the Akimel. Today, the elders in our community remember with nostalgia those days gone by when most families had their own plot of corn and worked together to hand harvest and roast the ears over mesquite coals. The unforgettable, sweet fire-roasted flavor of Huuñ has made it one of the most sought-after traditional treats of our people. This delicious and wholesome dish has become a favorite at family gatherings, social events, and ceremonies. Basic cooking instructions. Place 4 cups cold water in saucepan. Stir in 1 cup Ramona Farms Huuñ. Bring to a boil, then reduce heat and simmer 1 hour, stirring frequently. Serve with butter, salt and pepper, or chilies. Grate as a side dish, salad topping, or added to soups and stews. Ramona Farms Huuñ is made from heirloom Pima corn. It is hand-picked, husked, then roasted over a mesquite fire and set out in the sun to dry. It is finally shelled by hand and packaged for you. Enjoy! I cannot wait to try this corn. Now for our second ingredient, our second sister, let's take a closer look at Ramona Farms S-OAM BAVǐ, brown Tepary beans. BAVÍ, or Tepary beans, are native to the Sonoran Desert. They are extremely drought tolerant and have been cultivated by Ojibwe for thousands of years. They are found in the archaeological sites of the area, predating even the Ojibwe to their ancient ancestors, the Hohokam people. They did, however, almost go extinct. That is until Ramona Button and Teddy Button, the owners of Ramona Farms, resurrected this ancient legume. According to the Ojibwe legend, Milky Way is made of white Tepary beans scattered across the sky. It is also believed that Tepary beans are the children of the desert. In a recent Los Angeles Times article, Beth Dooley writes, quote, Lakota Sioux Chief Sean Sherman recounts that when the Diné, the Navajo, were forced out of their homes on a brutal, long walk of 1864, Indigenous seed savers hid teparies in their clothing for sustenance and to preserve the tradition, end quote. According to Ramona's website, these brown Tepary beans have a slightly nutty flavor and retain their firmness and shape after being cooked. Tepary beans are truly a superfood, higher in protein content than pinto and kidney beans, packed full of magnesium, calcium, iron, and zinc, high in soluble and insoluble fibers, and low on the glycemic index. But to me, it is all about their richness in history, their resilience, their deep roots. I believe that foods such as this activate forgotten remembrance deep within us, reconnect us, and of course develop our resilience qualities to balance our more sensitive side. I would like to share with you a few very beautiful and special words about S-OAM BAVÍ from the Food Sovereignty Conference hosted by Tohono O'odham Nation and International Indian something. Let's read together. Hold on. International Indian Council, Treaty Council in January of 2020. Let's read. BAVÍ are one of the most ancient and magical beans to be passed down through generations of indigenous peoples from South to North America. In the summertime, BAVÍ is planted when the first monsoon rains saturate the ground, so that the first drink that the beans take are rainwater that was prayed for. This water is the breast milk of Jued Kitim and is important for DNA structure of the bean as well as its overall integrity and character. Growing these beans is a ceremony within itself, because if grown traditionally and within the monsoon season, it is truly an act of faith and trust in the elements, earth and O'odham working together. We are told that if the beans are grown with tap water and watered often, they grow up to be spoiled and don't produce as much. We gather here, strengthening the stories and foundations of our foods, bringing healing for the next generations, educating ourselves about the many aspects of our precious foods, and being empowered to take ownership of our stories, ways of growing, and to continue sustaining our Abdag, health and wellness, and Himdag, our way of life. That gives me chills. I really feel the energy pouring through those words right into my body. All right, I have tried cooking beans once before, and not Tepary beans, and I ended up with burnt mush. So this time I will follow expert advice and I will cook my beans in a slow cooker, a crock pot that I got in Target for 25 bucks. And to make sure that when we don't screw this up this time, I will read the back label for basic cooking instructions. All right, 1.5 pounds or 3 cups, which is this package here, of Ramona Farms brown Tepary beans, cleaned and rinsed. So we gotta clean and rinse. Place beans in a pot with 3 quarts of water, bring to a boil, bam. Turn off the heat and soak for 2 hours. Pour off soaking water, rinse beans, and add 3 quarts of fresh water. Bring pot to a boil and reduce heat to simmer. Partially cover the pot and cook beans until tender, approximately 4 to 6 hours. 4 to 6 is a big difference. Or place in a large crock pot, which we have, on high for 8 to 10 hours. Add hot water as needed. Salt to taste after cooking. Serves 6. Well, 3 cups and 3 quarts of water. So we need 3 cups and 3 quarts of water. I wonder if we have to pre-soak for the crock pot. I've heard somewhere, I swear, that they don't need to be pre-soaked for the crock pot. But I will look that up and I will link that information down below. Also, 3 quarts is exactly 12 cups of water, just in case you don't have a quart counter, a quart measurer. So we're gonna do, actually, I'm gonna do half this time, just because it takes a little while for these to arrive from the Foodocracy. Oh, where is my Foodocracy? From the Foodocracy website where I ordered them from. And so in case I make a mistake, right, because I'm making this for the first time, I'm going to have another half left to work with. So we're gonna do, instead of 3 cups, we're gonna do 1.5 cups of beans, and instead of 12 cups of water, which is 3 quarts, we're gonna do 6 cups of water, which is 1.5 quarts. I think that works. All right, let's put this together because I know it takes a little while for them to cook. Here we have our, ta-da, our crock pot insert. I think that's how we call it. And then I've already measured out 6 cups of water, which we're gonna pour in here. And I know this is interesting. I'm sitting down here, but let's just do it. Okay. Ooh, I need a cup. Oh, I'm just gonna eyeball it, you know, for the half of these beans. Oh, I'm so excited to prepare them. All right, let's do half a pack. So it's approximately here. We're gonna pour it in. Okay. I think that's about a half. I don't know if that's a good idea to eyeball it or not, but we're gonna find out. All right, and now let's pour our 6 cups of water. And remember, we don't need to salt them or do anything before. Everything like that comes after. And you know what? I guess I'm skipping the pre-soaking since it's a crock pot and it's going to do this for longer, just because I heard it somewhere. But if it doesn't work out, then we'll come back to the recipe. We'll do the rest with the pre-soaking process. But for now, let's go and place them in our crock pot for 8 to 10 hours on high. I'm gonna mix them up a little bit and cover and turn on high. And let's not forget that we need to turn on a timer, right? So I'm going to set up a timer for 8 to 10 hours from now, which is going to be the middle of the night. My goodness, will I have to wake up in the middle of the night? So right now it's 2:18. So 10 hours from now it's going to be 12:18. 12 hours from now, no, 10 hours from now is 12, and 8 hours from now is going to be 10. So hopefully they'll be ready by 10 because I usually sleep by 12. All right, so now that we are done with that and that's ready and rolling, we are ready for our third ingredient, the Cherokee Candy Roaster Squash. I'm so excited for this one. Let's learn a little more about it. All right, about our third sister, Cherokee Candy Roaster Squash. Well, the name kind of says it all, candy. But I also found a fantastic article about candy roaster squash on fondazioneslowfood.com. Fondazione stands for foundation. I will provide a link for their website below. And it belongs to the Slow Food Foundation for Biodiversity, a foundation for the protection of biodiversity of our food. Amazing. The title of the article is Candy Roaster Squash, and it is kindly provided to all by the Ark of Taste. And I want to dedicate a moment to the Ark of Taste. They are part of Slow Food Foundation for Biodiversity and have their own praiseworthy mission. Let's find out exactly what it is that they do directly from their website. Let's read. Whoop, take me there. Ark of Taste. The Ark of Taste travels the world collecting small-scale, quality productions that belong to the cultures, history, and traditions of entire planet, an extraordinary heritage of fruits, vegetables, animal breeds, cheeses, breads, sweets, and cured meats. The Ark was created to point out the existence of these products and draw attention to the risk that they might disappear within a few generations. Agricultural biodiversity and small-scale, family-based food production systems are in danger throughout the world due to industrialization, genetic erosion, changing consumption patterns, climate change, the abandonment of rural areas, migration, and conflict. The Ark of Taste invites everybody to take action. In some cases, products need to be rediscovered and put back on the table, and producers need to be supported and to have their stories told. In others, such as the case of endangered wild species, it might be better to eat less or none of them in order to preserve them and favor their reproduction. A little more about the project. The Ark of Taste is an online catalog that is growing day by day, gathering alerts from people who see flavors of their communities disappear, taking with them a piece of the culture and history of which they are part. Thanks to the contribution of many people, we have cataloged thousands of products so far, but there is still a long way to go. So we have set ourselves an ambitious goal to board thousands of products on the Ark, tracking them down in every corner of the planet. Anyone can send a nomination. You can help too. Fill out the online form to nominate a product. Isn't this great? If you have an ingredient you love but fear that it might go extinct, you can nominate it and the Ark of Taste will do their magic and bring the story of your ingredient to light, to life. Maybe saving it from extinction. So back to our third sister, Cherokee candy roaster squash, who, surprise, surprise, was nominated by Relais and Chateau as an important ingredient that needs to be saving. Relais and Chateau is another amazing group of independent entrepreneurs who are dedicated to preserving local heritage and the environment. I will link their website in bio. So Relais and Chateau nominated Candy Roaster Squash, and the Ark of Taste did their magic and put this beautiful, informative article about Candy Roaster Squash for us to enjoy. Let's read together. Candy Roaster Squash by Ark of Taste. Local to present-day North Carolina, in the southeastern United States, the Candy Roaster Squash is known for its sweet, unique flavor, which is the reasoning behind its name. The Cherokee tribes in the southern Appalachians originally cherished this squash for its ability to withstand winter frost and its long shelf life. Many people have come to treasure it for its unique taste. When fully ripe and stored for several months, it will reach its full flavor potential. A favorite in pies, soups, butters, and breads, recipes that utilize this squash do not call for any additional sugar or sweetener. When baked, stewed, boiled, or mashed, its pulp can be compared to a sweet potato. Native to the areas surrounding the Cherokee tribes in the states of present-day western North Carolina, northern Georgia, and eastern Tennessee, this food is of cultural significance to the region. There it is considered to be the best winter squash to eat, and people still plant it in the Cherokee tradition using the Three Sisters farming strategy. According to the traditional companion planting technique, the candy roaster grows around the base of the corn and pole beans, two other regionally native plants, to keep weeds from growing and to retain moisture in the soil surrounding them. The candy roaster squash can be round, oblong, or pear-shaped and can often look somewhat like a pumpkin. It can be harvested at a weight ranging from 5 to 115 kilograms. It generally has a pink, tan, or orange color, but some varieties can include green, gray, or blue accents as well. Despite its wide-ranging appearance, most have a fine-textured orange-colored flesh and grow on large vines with large leaves. The Cherokee in the southern Appalachian Mountains originally bred the candy roaster squash in the 1800s. The first documentation of it being introduced to those beyond the Cherokee Nation was a newspaper article from the Charlotte Observer in 1925. This article tells of the Indian Fair at Cherokee School, where candy roaster squash seeds were made available to people who applied for them through the Chamber of Commerce. This cultivar is of immense cultural importance to the Cherokee people, evidenced by the Cherokee's nation's protection of the candy roaster squash seed through a seed bank from its Natural Resources Department, and to others who have come to value it over the last century. Today, the availability of seeds for this heirloom squash is a concern. This is compounded by the fact that this squash is a variety of the squash species Cucurbita maxima, which is open-pollinated. The candy roaster squash can accidentally cross-pollinate with any other variety of Cucurbita maxima at distances up to 1.6 kilometers. Due to this risk, dedicated and skilled seedsmen are needed in order to protect its biodiversity and distinct genetic makeup. Well, that's awesome. And I wonder, after reading that, if I should save the seeds from this one, or can we save the seeds? I don't know. We're gonna do a little more research on seed saving a little bit later. But for now, we ought to return to our other ingredients that are on the table. Our next two native ingredients from Sara Olson's recipe. I have already tried, and I can't thank Sara enough for introducing my family to them. First is the super delicious maple sugar. I am in love, and my children are too. Seriously, this is our new most favorite ingredient. I purchased it for this recipe, but then decided to open it up a little bit earlier to sprinkle some on the chocolate crepes I make for the kids in the morning, and it turned out to be delicious. This sugar delicately enhanced the dish. And more good news about maple sugar. Besides being delicious, it is also handcrafted. It requires minimal processing. It contains only one ingredient. It is lower on the glycemic index than cane sugar and corn syrup, and it is vegan and gluten-free. But to me, it is all about the processing. How many steps it takes to transform a thing from one state into the other. How much energy and additional equipment is required, or whether I can make it at home on my own. When it comes to white sugar, the answer is no. We cannot make it on our own at home. The making of it requires industrial processing and heavy-duty equipment. It takes roughly 20 steps to transform sugar cane into the pretty little white crystals we find on our table, leaving a huge carbon footprint behind. I highly recommend that you watch a video about how cane sugar is made. I certainly don't want any of it in my body after watching that. I will link a video in bio for you. From trucks that cut the cane to the colossal processing equipment, I can't even imagine how much energy it all requires for production and maintenance. I believe in the presence of equal give and take on all scales within every process. So if we take up all this energy to produce something, then this something will pull all the energy back from us in whichever form. Health, money, stress, doesn't matter. Energy is energy, but it is guaranteed that individually and as a collective, we will have to repay all that energetic debt and return all borrowed energy back to the environment. I wish that instead of a credit score, we had our energetic debt score written on us, which it probably is, only invisible to us. But imagine how much easier life could be. You meet someone with a crazy energetic debt score, and regardless of how attractive their credit score is, you run because you know that they'll be sucking all that energy straight out of you to repay their energetic debt. Industrialization requires a ton of energy. We borrow that energy from our environment in many different forms, such as biomass, fossil fuels, electricity made by the sun, water, and wind. But all that energy we will have to return. That's why collectively we're also stressed, so busy. That is a natural process of energetic rebalancing. That's us repaying our energetic debt. It is very simple. The more energy we consume, the more energy we have to return, to give back. Somehow, though, we have a very limited view when it comes to assessing how much energy is required per task. When running a vacuum cleaner, for instance, we calculate how much electricity is being used, yet we often forget to add our energy required to operate the vacuum cleaner and the energy that it took during the production of the vacuum cleaner, its design and the making of all of its parts, and the energy it took to dirty the carpet, and the energy it took while we were stressing about the dirty carpet, and so on. So it goes down an infinite rabbit hole. This candy, this sugar candy, for example, It took a ton of energy to be made and holds within it borrowed energy, a hidden cost that extends beyond its price in dollars. If I eat it, then I am agreeing to borrow this energy now and to return it later, in whichever form: work, exercise, health, stress, or my emotions. When is it due? Well, with that astronomical amount owed, I say probably right away, all the time, and forever. But seriously, it depends on your swiftness of your manifestation cycle. Mine is pretty quick. So the moment I eat a candy like this, a little unexpected expanse pops right up. For those with slower manifestation cycles, they might notice it right away, while it adds up and adds up and adds up and adds up, and then bam, something super dramatic happens. And all the owed energy is being pulled out of you all at once. Everything I consume, I have to give back. Understanding that changed my life entirely. By eating foods that require a ton of energy to be produced, highly processed foods, I foredoom myself for hard work and stress to repay that energy to the environment. But by choosing foods that are minimally processed, balanced foods, I release myself from such consequences. By not overwhelming our environment, we're also saving ourselves from overwhelm and imbalance. And by producing a ton of non-essential items with a single goal of personal enrichment, regardless the toll on the environment, we are foredooming the entire collective to repay our personal energetic debt, which keeps on growing, by the way. Just look at how fast we're all spinning. But back to our maple sugar. It takes about 5 steps, maybe less, for the tree sap to be transformed into the delicious maple sugar. I will outline the steps below so you can see for yourself how simple it is. And yes, you can totally make it at home on your own, and I love that. For this recipe, I purchased ground maple sugar because at the time, I couldn't find any tribally owned maple sugar on any website. But then it dawned on me that I also purchased a bottle of Passamaquoddy maple syrup along with my Tepary beans from foodocracy.com. So, in honor of tribally owned and operated businesses, I would like to use this Passamaquoddy syrup and transform it into maple sugar. It should be fun and it should be easy. I think all it takes is to boil the syrup even further until sugar crystals are formed, and then milling the sugar into desired consistency. And if it doesn't work, then we always have our delicately delicious ground maple sugar as a backup. And P.S. I went onto Passamaquoddy maple website afterwards and saw that they also make their own maple sugar, which can be ordered directly through their website, which I already did, and I also ordered some maple candy. All right, so Passamaquoddy tribe is native to northeastern United States and Canada, and their maple syrup is insane. Seriously, it is the best maple syrup I've ever tried. I am wowed. Whatever maple syrup I've had before this probably wasn't even maple syrup at all in comparison to this one. This one tastes like sweet condensed milk, like dulce de leche, but it comes from a tree. How amazing is that? Now I understand maple syrup's true significance and all the legends that are surrounding it, one of which I will tell you right now. All right, there are a ton of legends about maple trees and the origins of maple syrup, but my absolute favorite one is by Zhaawnong Webb that I found on his YouTube channel under the name Nanaboozhoo Stories, Nanaboozhoo and the Spirit of Maple Trees. I will link the story below and for now tell you a short version of his story. Long time ago, the Anishinaabe people had a difficult time finding food during harsh winter months. Well, maple trees took pity on them and gave them their sap. Sometime later, a trickster, Nanaboozhoo, came to visit the village and the people, but found no one. Everything was abandoned and all the work was stopped. Nanaboozhoo went around searching for the missing people and found them. All in the maple grove, laying under the trees with their mouths open, gobbling up thick, rich sap running from the trees. "What are you all doing?" asked Nanaboozhoo, but there was no answer. So he took a big bucket and filled it up full of water in the nearest river and then poured it down the tree trunks, diluting the sap. "Now get back to your tasks," said Nanaboozhoo. And that is how people today have to work hard to make rich syrup from diluted tree sap. All right, and now to our two final ingredients. Seki Hills balsamic vinegar, elderberry balsamic vinegar, comes from a native plant and a native farm located in Capay Valley in Northern California, and it is owned and operated by Yochdihi Wintun Nation. And this is another ingredient that I've already opened and tried, mixed with some olive oil and some ciabatta bread, and I almost couldn't stop. This isn't like any balsamic vinegar I've tried before. It is very, very, very delicious. I can literally drink this one from the bottle. No salad required. But the really cool thing about this vinegar is the elderberry, a true indigenous elder with an incredible ability to usher us through invisible realms, all the while shielding us, protecting our energy from all unwanted interference. Whether it is through a melody that emanates from a native flute that is made from elderberry tree, or through direct ingestion of elderberries, you are very likely to catch a glimpse of magical fairy realms. No drugs required, just a simple Three Sisters salad with a little drizzle of elderberry balsamic vinegar. Who knew things can be that simple and legal? The key is to always respect your elders, the elderberry. Always bring a gift of gratitude, an offering before taking anything in return. All right, and our last but not least, we have our amaranth. And amaranth is native to South America. Sara Calvosa Olson uses popped amaranth in her recipe as a final garnish. And I already made some for my children, and it was really cool because it pops just like a popcorn. But the best part is that it comes from a flower. And so I call it my fairy popcorn because of the flower and because of how tiny it is. And there is another amazing traditional South American recipe that I cannot wait to try that combines popped amaranth and honey into a sweet treat called alegria, which translates to joy in English. All right, and for the rest of our ingredients in Three Sisters salad, our sunflower oil, our garlic cloves, chili powder, and Dijon mustard, I think we all know a lot about them, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, if only to mention that sunflowers are native to North America, while garlic is not. Garlic comes from South and Central Asia and northeastern Iran. Chilies are native to Central and South America, and Dijon mustard comes from Dijon province in France. And a lot of you might say that our modern state-of-the-art technology and equipment are perfect for our current everyday life. So why bother looking into the past at traditional agricultural planting techniques used by indigenous people? Well, I say that besides the obvious answer that regenerative agriculture and companion planting are 100% more beneficial for the soil of our Mama Earth and for her energetic body, which is our environment. If you recall, in my recent videos, I mentioned briefly the concept of time breathing, expanding and contracting, just like a pupil of an eye. So future and past are all relative depending on which direction you are moving in relationship to the center. So if you're expanding, moving away from the center, then relying on modern technology might be your present and your near future, because you're like an astronaut. You're moving further from the center, further from the source, and thus more technology is required to sustain your life, for your survival. But if you are in a contraction phase and you're moving towards the center, towards the source, towards oneness, then your future holds within it unity with the environment. It holds within it complete self-reliance, and thus traditional wisdom about how to grow your own food and how to live in harmony with the environment that is related to you, so you can imprint it directly onto your DNA through the sound of my voice and through your personal experience. That wisdom is far more valuable and far more advanced than any instructions or any technology that exists outside of you. So it all depends. Which direction are you going? Hopefully we'll meet each other on the way. Thank you for watching. Bye. To Sara Calvosa Olson, thank you so much for putting this book together. It is truly wonderful. It is going to help many to connect to your land and your people and learn their story. Most of us have no idea about the true history of what happened here. But believe me, those who find out won't stay indifferent. Thank you. There is an enormous amount of love and gratitude in my heart towards all the indigenous people. Your wisdom, your strength, your resilience, your depth are inspirational. And to all the indigenous farmers and business owners, your food is full of meaning and magic. And it is so delicious. It is going to change this world.